The crystalline spires of Nexus Prime glinted in the light of three distant stars, their ancient surfaces refracting colors unknown to human eyes. Ambassador Elena Reyes stood at the viewport of the diplomatic shuttle, her breath catching despite herself. 2 centuries after humanity's first tentative steps beyond their solar system, and the majesty of the galactic community's central hub still inspired awe. Quite the sight, isn't it? Commander Raj Patel joined her, his security uniform crisp despite the 30-hour journey from Earth's orbital headquarters. His dark eyes scanned the approaching station with professional wariness. Hard to believe that structure has hosted interstellar politics for 10 millennia. And today, they'll hear humanity's voice as equals, Elena replied, straightening the formal blue tunic that marked her as Earth's official envoy. She'd rehearsed her address countless times, believing, perhaps naively, that reason and evidence would sway the council. Dr. Mira Solberg approached, cultural attaché insignia gleaming on her collar, data tablets clutched to her chest. The historical significance isn't lost on me, but I'm more concerned with the council's recent communications. Their tone has shifted substantially since our last session. Elena nodded. The communiques had grown increasingly rigid, formal phrases barely concealing impatience. After 5 years of negotiations, humanity had expected progress, not regression. Nexus control to Earth vessel harmony, crackled the comm system. Proceed to diplomatic docking ring 17. Council session begins in 90 minutes. Deviation from prescribed approach vectors will result in immediate security response. Raj frowned. Standard procedure is 3 hours for acclimation and preparation. They're rushing us, Elena said, her diplomatic instincts flaring. Make sure our secure communications are triple encrypted, and confirm our contingency protocols are active. The Harmony glided through the massive docking structure, a human-made vessel dwarfed by the colossal transports of older species. Crystalline ships belonging to the Lumidian Collective refracted starlight into dazzling patterns. Massive aquatic spheres housed the delegates of the Morosian Deep, while vacuum-adapted void-born representatives floated in specially designed environment bubbles. As they disembarked, Elena took a moment to center herself, feeling the subtle shift in artificial gravity, slightly heavier than Earth standard, calibrated to the homeworld of the eldest council species. A subtle reminder of the established hierarchy. Ambassador Reyes, a melodious voice called. A hovering translator drone approached, projecting the image of Counselor Talari, one of the few council members who'd shown genuine interest in human culture. The Alviari diplomats' compound eyes blinked in their species' gesture of respectful acknowledgement. I had hoped to speak with you before proceedings begin. Elena gestured for her team to continue their preparations, while she stepped aside with the projection. Counselor, I value your insights as always. Talari's mandibles clicked anxiously. I speak unofficially and at great risk. The proceedings today, they are not what you expect. Certain factions have been meeting privately. Counselor Vroth has gathered significant support. For what purpose? Elena asked, keeping her expression neutral despite the alarm bells ringing in her mind. The Council fears humanity's rapid expansion, your terraforming technologies, your population growth rates, your adaptability. Talari's projection flickered. I must go. Remember that not all of us share the elder species' perspectives. Some of us remember being newcomers ourselves. The projection vanished, leaving Elena with a growing sense of foreboding. The council chamber stretched impossibly high, its architecture deliberately overwhelming to visitors. 12 massive thrones arranged in a semicircle housed the representatives of the founding species, those who had established the Galactic Council 10 millennia ago. Below them, tiered seating accommodated the delegates of 200 associate species, their status determined by the length of their membership and their technological development. Humanity, as one of the newest arrivals, was positioned at the chamber's lowest level, directly before the council. The arrangement was ostensibly to honor newcomers with proximity to the elders. But Elena recognized the psychological tactic for what it was, positioning supplicants to look up at their judges. As the human delegation settled into their assigned position, Elena surveyed the assembled council. The Lumidian representative, a being of pure photonic energy, pulsed with barely contained agitation. The massive Drelkar counselor, whose species breathed methane and communicated through subsonic vibrations, rumbled quietly to the crystalline elder beside him. Most concerning was Counselor Vroth of the Archivists, the oldest spacefaring race, whose multifaceted eyes seemed fixed on the human delegation with unmistakable antipathy. The Chamber Regent, a neutral position that rotated among non-founding species, activated the session with a harmonic tone that resonated through the vast space. Conversation stilled as the formal proceedings began. The 7,422nd session of the Galactic Council is now in progress, announced the Regent, a reptilian saurid whose scales shimmered with ceremonial oils. Today's primary agenda concerns ongoing negotiations with the species-designated human regarding their petition for associate status and territorial demarcations. Elena rose, preparing to deliver her opening statement. But before she could speak, Counselor Vroth's gravelly voice cut through the chamber. "Esteemed colleagues," the ancient archivist began, his translator rendering his clicks and whistles into crisp standard. "Before we entertain further petitions from the human delegation, this council must address urgent concerns regarding their activities in violation of sacred non-expansion treaties." Elena remained standing, though confusion flickered across her face. "Counselor, with respect, humanity has signed no such treaties. We have been engaged in good faith negotiations to establish our first formal agreements with the Council." Vroth's appendages rippled in what Elena recognized as a gesture of dismissal. "The territorial sovereignty accords apply to all intelligent species within Council space, whether formalized members or not. Your recent activities in the Arcturus sector, specifically your terraforming operations on worlds clearly designated as ecological preserves, constitute a direct violation of Council mandate." A murmur spread through the chamber. Elena maintained her composure, though her pulse quickened. She caught the subtle shifting of several founding members, the exchange of knowing glances. This was orchestrated. They had arrived with verdicts already formed. "Counselor, humanity has conducted all terraforming operations in accordance with the preliminary guidelines provided during our initial contact." Elena responded. "Each world was surveyed extensively and confirmed uninhabited. We have documentation of approval from regional oversight committees." "Documentation can be falsified," Vroth replied coldly. "The evidence of your encroachment is irrefutable. The Council has deliberated on this matter extensively." Elena's eyes narrowed slightly. "You've deliberated? Without human representation or the presentation of evidence?" The Lumidian representative pulsed brightly. "The matter concerns more than mere territorial violations. Your species produces disruptions." "What kind of disruptions?" Elena asked, gesturing for Dr. Solberg to approach with their data tablets. "Your technology generates subspace pollution," the photonic being continued. "Your communication systems interfere with ancient networks established long before your kind discovered basic electricity." Dr. Solberg stepped forward. "We've monitored all emissions from our technologies and found no evidence of harmful interference with existing systems. In fact, we've specifically designed our communication protocols to be compatible with Council standards." She activated a holographic display showing comparative emissions data. "As you can see, human subspace emissions are well below the thresholds established for new associate members." The display had barely materialized when the Drelkar counselor rumbled, its massive form shifting. The translator rendered its subsonic communications. "The issue extends beyond measurable emissions. Your species generates psychic noise that disturbs the more sensitive members of our community. Elena exchanged a quick glance with Raj. Psychic noise? This was the first time such an accusation had been raised in 5 years of negotiations. This is the first we're hearing of such concerns, Elena stated calmly. Human civilization has no documented psychic abilities, according to your own classification systems. We would welcome any scientific evidence of these alleged disturbances. Evidence is not required when the effects are self-evident to those with the capacity to perceive them, Vroth declared. The Council has reached consensus on this matter. Humanity must submit to immediate oversight of all technological development and colonial expansion. A Council delegation will be assigned to your homeworld to ensure compliance. The chamber fell silent. The demand was unprecedented. Not even newly admitted associate species were subjected to such intrusive measures. Elena stood perfectly still, her diplomatic training keeping her expression neutral, despite the anger flaring within her. Counselor Vroth, humanity came here in good faith to forge mutual understanding and cooperation. What you propose is not oversight but subjugation. Earth cannot and will not accept such terms. Then Earth demonstrates its unwillingness to participate in the established order, Vroth replied. This council has maintained peace among thousands of species for 10 millennia. Your kind has barely mastered interstellar travel. Yet you presume to reject our wisdom? As the exchange continued, Raj discreetly activated his secure communicator, scanning for unauthorized transmissions. His eyes widened slightly as he caught fragments of encrypted council communications. He moved closer to Elena, whispering in her ear while appearing to adjust her translation device. They're already discussing Earth status, he murmured. Internal communications indicate a predetermined decision to classify humanity as a guided species, essentially placing us under direct council control. Elena's jaw tightened imperceptibly. She gave a nearly undetectable nod, then addressed the council again. This council claims to value evidence and reasoned discourse, yet you have clearly reached conclusions without allowing us to present our case. This suggests not wisdom, but prejudice. She paused, letting her words hang in the air. I request a formal recess to consult with my government regarding these unexpected accusations. Granted, the regent announced after a moment's hesitation. The council will reconvene in 2 standard hours. As the human delegation withdrew to their assigned chambers, Elena maintained her composed demeanor until the doors sealed behind them. Only then did her diplomatic mask slip, revealing tightly controlled fury. 5 years of negotiations, and they never once mentioned these supposed violations, she said, pacing the room. They're manufacturing pretexts. Raj connected his secure terminal to a portable signal blocker. It's worse than that. I've decrypted more of their internal communications. Look at this. The screen displayed fragments of council discussions dating back months. Phrases like human containment strategy and preemptive isolation protocols stood out starkly. They never intended to accept us as equals, Dr. Solberg said quietly, scanning the documents. These communications suggest they've been actively suppressing our contacts with non-council species. Elena stopped pacing. Explain. Several independent trading guilds attempted to establish relations with Earth last year. Solberg continued. All suddenly withdrew without explanation. According to these logs, the Council threatened them with trade sanctions if they continued engagement with humanity. They're isolating us, Raj confirmed. And this, he highlighted another section, suggests they plan to implement a spatial quarantine around our entire sector, restricting all human vessels to a 50 light-year radius from Sol. Elena stared at the evidence, her mind racing through implications and options. Commander, initiate Directive Phoenix. Authorization, Reyes Gamma 7. Raj's eyes widened slightly. Ambassador, that's a last resort protocol. And we've reached that last resort, Elena replied firmly. Dr. Solberg, prepare the historical survey data, all of it, including the restricted sections from the Omega archives. As Raj encrypted and transmitted the coded message to Earth Command, Elena moved to a private terminal and established a secure channel to a frequency not listed in any official communication protocols. Ambassador Reyes to Outlier Network, she spoke softly. The Council has shown its hand. Implement contingency echo. A brief acknowledgement came through before the channel closed automatically. Elena turned to her team. We have 1 hour before we must present our response. Let's make it count. When the human delegation returned to the council chamber, something had shifted in Elena's demeanor. The careful deference expected of petitioners before the council was gone, replaced by a quiet confidence that made several of the elder representatives shift uncomfortably in their massive thrones. The council recognizes the human delegation, the regent announced. Has Earth considered its position regarding council oversight? We have, Elena replied, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. Before I present our formal response, I wish to address certain information that has come to our attention. She activated a holographic display. Unlike their previous technical presentations, this one showed historical records, images of various species' first contacts with the Council, spanning thousands of years. Humanity has studied the history of galactic civilization extensively. Elena began. We've analyzed patterns of development, expansion, and integration among hundreds of species. An interesting pattern emerged. The display shifted to show comparative development charts. Species granted associate status show remarkably similar development trajectories, all experiencing technological plateaus precisely when they might otherwise challenge elder technologies. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Councillor Vroth's appendages rippled agitatedly. This is not relevant to the matter at hand, he declared. Your violations are fabricated, Elena interrupted. Something no petitioner had done in living memory. Just as they were fabricated for the Centaurians 3 centuries ago, and the Proxima Collective before them. She advanced the display to show more historical data. Each species that developed too quickly, that showed too much independence, suddenly faced accusations of violations remarkably similar to those leveled against humanity today. The Lumidian representative pulsed angrily. This is outrageous! The human speaks out of turn and makes baseless accusations. Not baseless, Elena countered. Documented, by your own archives. She displayed classified council records, records no non-member species should have been able to access. The chamber erupted in shocked exclamations. How did you obtain restricted council documents? Demanded the Drelkar representative, its massive form vibrating with agitation. The same way we discovered your predetermined verdict regarding Earth, Elena replied calmly. The same way we learned of your plans to quarantine our entire sector and classify us as a guided species, a euphemism for subjugation. She turned, making deliberate eye contact with representatives of non-founding species. For 10,000 years, this council has claimed to protect galactic civilization, to nurture developing species. In reality, it has systematically suppressed any civilization that might one day challenge the dominance of the founding members. The chamber descended into chaos, with multiple species shouting through their translators simultaneously. The regent repeatedly called for order, but the carefully maintained decorum of millennia had fractured. Elena waited for the noise to subside slightly, before continuing. In light of these discoveries, and the Council's clear unwillingness to engage in honest diplomacy, I am authorized to deliver Earth's response. She produced a small, crystalline datasphere, the formal medium for diplomatic communications, and placed it on the central dais. Earth hereby withdraws from all provisional agreements with the Galactic Council and declines further consideration for associate status under the current framework. Gasps and exclamations echoed through the chamber. No species had ever voluntarily withdrawn from Council consideration. You cannot simply withdraw, Vroth declared, rising from his throne for the first time. Your kind exists within Council space. You are subject to our authority by virtue of your location within the galactic community." "An interesting perspective," Elena replied, "particularly given that the Council has no legitimate claim to the territory humanity occupies. Our historical analysis indicates that the Council's expansion into our sector occurred merely 3,000 years ago, through the systematic absorption or suppression of pre-existing independent networks." She activated her neural uplink, a subtle blue light pulsing at her temple. "Humanity rejects the premise that proximity equals submission. We came seeking partnership, not servitude." Vroth's multifaceted eyes narrowed. "This defiance will not stand. The Council has means to enforce compliance for the greater stability of galactic civilization." "I anticipated such a response," Elena said. She raised her hand, and the chamber's massive viewports suddenly shifted from their standard neutral display to show actual space outside Nexus Prime. The assembled delegates gasped collectively. Surrounding the station were dozens of ships, vessels of various designs, none bearing Council insignia. They had appeared without triggering a single proximity alert. "What is the meaning of this?" demanded the Regent, all pretense of neutrality abandoned. "How dare you bring unauthorized vessels near Nexus Prime?" "I brought nothing," Elena replied. "These are independent vessels representing 27 non-Council civilizations, species either rejected for associate status or those who chose to remain independent despite Council pressure." The massive viewscreen activated, displaying the commanders of several vessels. Many belonged to species even the Council elders had difficulty identifying, civilizations that had deliberately maintained low profiles to avoid Council attention. For centuries, these civilizations have built their own networks, their own alliances. Elena continued. They trade, they cooperate, they develop, all beyond Council oversight. Humanity didn't need to create this coalition. We merely discovered its existence. Panic spread visibly among the Council members. The waterborne Morosian delegate's containment sphere bubbled frantically as it communicated with its aides. The crystalline elders flickered in patterns, indicating severe distress. "This is unprecedented," gasped a sordid representative from the associate tiers. "A show of force within the sacred neutral zone." "Not force," Elena corrected. "Presence. None of these vessels have activated weapon systems. They are here as witnesses, and as a demonstration that the Council's authority is neither universal nor absolute." Commander Raj stepped forward, addressing the Council directly for the first time. "Our analysis of Nexus Prime's defensive capabilities indicates they were designed primarily to impress rather than to function in actual conflict. The station's weapon systems haven't been significantly upgraded in over 2,000 years." The revelation sent another wave of shock through the chamber. The most closely guarded secret of the Council, that its power was largely illusory, maintained through diplomacy and manipulation rather than actual strength, had been exposed. "You threaten the foundation of galactic peace," Vroth declared, though his tone had shifted from commanding to almost pleading. "Peace built on deception is merely delayed conflict," Elena responded. "Humanity proposes an alternative." She gestured, and the central holographic display activated again, showing a new diplomatic framework, a network structure rather than the Council's traditional hierarchy. "We propose the Galactic Accord of Equals," Elena announced. "A voluntary association with genuine collective governance, technological exchange based on mutual benefit rather than controlled development, and territorial sovereignty as a fundamental right rather than a Council dispensation." Several of the associate species representatives leaned forward, studying the proposal with undisguised interest. Even among the founding species, Elena noted the Alveari and Lumidians exchanging communications. "This is absurd," Vroth declared, though with noticeably less conviction. "The Council has maintained stability for 10 millennia. You would replace proven order with chaos. We would replace controlled stagnation with collaborative growth, Elena countered. 10 millennia of stability has come at the cost of countless innovations suppressed, civilization stunted, and potential squandered. She looked around the chamber, making eye contact with representatives from dozens of species. The choice before you is simple: evolve or become irrelevant. The network of independent civilizations already encompasses nearly 40% of explored space. Within a decade, it will likely surpass Council territory. On the viewport screens, more ships appeared, vessels of associate species that had quietly slipped away from their designated positions in the Nexus Prime docking rings to join the gathered coalition. "Ambassador Reyes," called a voice from the associate tiers. The Tellurian representative, whose species had held associate status for nearly a millennium, stood. How would existing associate members transition to this proposed accord? Before Elena could answer, Vroth interrupted. "This discussion is over. Guards, detain the human delegation for violations of Council security protocols." Station security forces moved toward the central floor, but stopped abruptly when several associate species representatives placed themselves between the guards and the humans. "I believe we should hear the full proposal," the Tellurian representative stated firmly. "The Council exists to serve galactic civilization, not to silence dissent." Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. The balance of power, maintained through millennia of careful manipulation, was visibly shifting before their eyes. Vroth turned to his fellow founding members, his translator struggling to keep pace with his agitated communications. The elders conferred hurriedly, their carefully cultivated image of unified wisdom crumbling under pressure. "This session is temporarily adjourned for Council deliberation," the Regent finally announced. Though it was clear the declaration came not from protocol, but from desperation. As the founding members withdrew to their private chamber, Elena noted several of them already sending communications to their respective fleets. The facade of reasoned discourse had fallen away, revealing the panic beneath. "They'll try to reassert control," Raj murmured. "Their entire power structure is threatened." "Let them try," Elena replied quietly. "The coalition vessels have already transmitted the historical evidence to every inhabited system within 1,000 light years. The Council's methods are exposed, regardless of what happens here." Within minutes, diplomatic aides were rushing through the chamber, carrying messages between associate delegations. Species that had maintained rigid formality for centuries were now engaged in rapid, direct negotiations, bypassing Council protocols entirely. Elena's neural uplink pulsed with incoming communications from coalition vessels and Earth Command. The message from Admiral Khatri was succinct. "Fleet positioned at strategic junctions. Diplomatic initiative authorized to proceed at your discretion. Earth stands ready." A chime sounded, indicating the Council elders were returning. The 12 founding members filed back into the chamber, their movements stiff with tension. Councillor Vroth took the central position, his appendages arranged in the formal configuration for major pronouncements. "After consultation," he began, his translator rendering his voice with artificial calm, "the Council recognizes that certain procedural irregularities may have occurred in the evaluation of humanity's petition." A diplomatic euphemism for being caught in a millennia-long deception, Elena thought, maintaining her neutral expression. "The Council proposes a temporary recess of formal proceedings," Vroth continued. "During this period, special committees will be formed to examine the concerns raised by the Earth delegation and to consider potential reforms to Council structure." It was a delaying tactic, transparent to everyone in the chamber. The Council hoped to defuse the immediate crisis, disperse the coalition fleet, and then gradually reassert control through its extensive diplomatic and economic networks. Elena stepped forward. "Councillor Vroth, your proposal demonstrates that the Council still fails to grasp the fundamental reality of the situation. This is not a negotiation for concessions or reforms. The evidence we've presented shows a systematic pattern of deception and manipulation spanning thousands of years. She gestured to the assembled delegates. Every species represented here deserves better than committees and reviews. They deserve truth, autonomy, and genuine cooperation. Elena activated the central display once more, showing the formal declaration of the Galactic Accord. As of this moment, Earth and 27 independent civilizations have ratified this framework for a new form of interstellar cooperation. Associate species are invited to review the accord and determine their own path forward. Turning to face the founding members directly, she continued, "The Council species are also welcome to join as equal partners, but only as equals, not as self-appointed guardians or directors of galactic affairs." Vroth's appendages trembled with barely controlled rage. You would dismantle 10,000 years of civilization on the basis of your species' brief existence among the stars? This is unprecedented arrogance. Not arrogance, Elena corrected. Clarity. Humanity may be young by your standards, but perhaps that allows us to see what those embedded in ancient systems cannot. That tradition without purpose becomes tyranny, and authority without consent becomes oppression. She began walking toward the chamber exit, the human delegation falling into step behind her. The Accord representatives will remain in orbit for 72 standard hours to receive communications from any species wishing to discuss transition arrangements. "You cannot simply leave," Vroth declared, his translator struggling to maintain dignified tones as his actual vocalizations became increasingly agitated. "Council sessions are concluded by formal procedure." Elena paused at the threshold and looked back at the chamber, at the associates already forming into discussion groups, at the founding members watching their authority evaporate before their eyes. "The procedures you reference were designed to reinforce hierarchy, not to facilitate genuine dialogue," she replied. "The time for such theatrics is over. Actions will speak now, not rituals." With that, she led her team from the chamber, leaving behind the sounds of a political order in collapse. As the Harmony detached from Nexus Prime's docking ring, Elena watched through the viewport as ships of various designs maneuvered into formation around them. The Coalition fleet, no, the Accord fleet now, created an honor guard for the Earth vessel's departure. "Incoming transmission from the Tellurian delegation," Raj announced, "and 7 other associate species requesting secure channels. Route them to the conference room," Elena instructed. "Dr. Solberg, please coordinate with their cultural attachés to establish appropriate protocols." As her team dispersed to their duties, Elena remained at the viewport a moment longer, watching as Nexus Prime receded. The station's crystalline spires no longer seemed awe-inspiring but oddly fragile, beautiful relics of a fading era. Her neural uplink pulsed with a private message from Talari, the Alviari counselor, who had warned her before the session. History turned on its axis today. Some among the founding species already recognize the necessity of change. Others will resist until the bitter end. Prepare for both allies and enemies in unexpected places. Elena sent a simple acknowledgement, then made her way to the ship's communication center. The quantum entanglement array was already active, establishing a real-time connection to Earth despite the vast distance. "Ambassador Reyes reporting," she began as the connection stabilized. "The Council order is broken. Freedom reclaimed." On the screen, the assembled leaders of Earth's unified government listened intently as she detailed the events at Nexus Prime and the formation of the Galactic Accord. "The transition won't be smooth," she concluded. "The Council still controls significant resources and influence, but their mystique is shattered, and their authority diminished with each passing hour." President Okafor's expression was solemn. "You've initiated a fundamental restructuring of interstellar relations. Ambassador, future generations will study this day as a turning point in human history, in galactic history." "It was necessary," Elena replied simply. The alternative was submission to a system designed to limit our potential and eventually absorb our identity into the Council's homogenized culture. "And the Accord species?" asked Defense Minister Chung. "Can we trust their commitment?" "They've lived under Council shadow far longer than we have," Elena said. "Their commitment to an alternative is genuine. That said, we're establishing verification protocols for all Accord agreements. Trust with accountability." As the briefing continued, Elena felt the weight of the day's events settling on her shoulders. She had gone to Nexus Prime prepared to negotiate. Instead, she had sparked a revolution in the political order of thousands of civilizations. When the transmission ended, she found Raj waiting outside the communication center. His normally stoic expression softened with something like awe. "The Tellurians have formally requested admission to the Accord," he reported. "Their entire sector is following suit. 17 former associates in total. The Council is attempting to implement trade sanctions, but their enforcement mechanisms are collapsing as more species abandon their protocols." Elena nodded, allowing herself a moment of satisfaction. "And Earth?" "Admiral Khatri reports all defense systems at normal status. The Council's nearest military assets are maintaining distance well beyond our territorial boundaries." He paused. "We've also received unofficial communications from 3 founding species requesting private channels to discuss their potential transition to the Accord." "3 already?" Elena raised an eyebrow. "Which ones?" "The Alveari, as expected. More surprisingly, the Lumidians and the Saurid Concordat." Elena considered this development. The photonic Lumidians had seemed firmly aligned with the Council hardliners during the session. Their apparent reversal suggested internal divisions among the founding species that could be leveraged to further weaken the Council's unified front. "Establish the channels," she instructed. "Make it clear that founding species are welcome as equals, not as privileged members." As they walked through the corridor toward the ship's central hub, crew members nodded respectfully or offered quiet congratulations. News of what had transpired at Nexus Prime had spread rapidly throughout the vessel. "I never expected it to unfold quite like this," Elena admitted quietly. "I thought we might negotiate limited autonomy at best." Raj's expression turned thoughtful. "Perhaps that's why you succeeded where others failed. You weren't trying to dismantle their system. You were simply insisting on basic dignity and sovereignty. When they revealed those couldn't exist within their framework, the only logical path forward was to create an alternative." They reached the ship's central hub, where Dr. Solberg was coordinating with her team to process the flood of incoming diplomatic communications. The large display screen showed the growing network of vessels declaring alignment with the Accord, hundreds now, spreading outward from Nexus Prime like ripples from a stone cast into still water. "We've received 47 distinct proposals for Accord headquarters locations," Dr. Solberg reported, looking up from her console. "And 39 offers of technological exchange from species previously restricted by Council protocols." Elena studied the display, watching as the known galaxy transformed before her eyes. Centuries of carefully maintained barriers were dissolving, creating possibilities for cooperation and advancement that had been systematically suppressed for millennia. "Set course for the rendezvous point," she instructed the navigation officer. "We have a new galactic order to build." As the Harmony engaged its drive system, accelerating away from Nexus Prime and the crumbling edifice of Council authority, Elena allowed herself a quiet smile. Humanity had come to the stars, seeking its place in the galactic community. Instead, they had helped birth a new community entirely, one founded on the principles of freedom, equality, and genuine cooperation. Behind them, visible on long-range sensors, ships continued to depart from Nexus Prime's docking rings. Vessels of all descriptions, carrying representatives who had decided the future, lay not with ancient hierarchies, but with the emerging Accord. The Council's 10,000-year reign was ending not with apocalyptic conflict, but with the simple, Powerful assertion of a better alternative. Elena sent a final message to Earth before retiring to her quarters. Council order broken. Accord rising. The stars await.